And now for everything related to this draft, look who's with us. Landry Locker from The Locker Room on YouTube. Good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend.
And there is Cody Stoots from Houston Football, HOUfootball.com. And then you have Luis Ortiz on the end. Are we all ready to talk draft?
Very ready. Very ready. It's the time, baby. It's draft week. It's here.
I've been ready since they walked off the field in Kansas City. You know, I love the draft. That's my favorite things.
And of course, you can see these two also together on the SNL Texans Talk channel. So now that we're here talking draft, the Texans back-to-back 10-win seasons now. Does that mean this team should be more aggressive or less aggressive in the first round? And on the big board over there is more or less. So, Cody, tell us, where is your head at?
I got this figured out here, okay? So you're thinking, all right, 10-win seasons. You're going to go in there and you're going to be able to just go get that last little piece. No, you need a lot of stuff. You need a lot of stuff in this draft. If you're the Texans, don't keep moving around in the first round. Less aggressive for me. Just take it nice and easy, get a player, get a good player, and then be aggressive in day 2 and day 3 of the draft.
Interesting.
I see where Cody's coming from, but I kind of disagree. I think they need to be more aggressive, and that doesn't necessarily mean trading up. That means they need to open up their minds a little bit more to guys who might not be perfect, ideal culture fits, but open up your minds a little bit and kind of swing for the fences. We'll probably get into some of those scenarios. So I'm going to say more aggressive when it comes to expanding the potential pool of players.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Landry here. I think they need to be aggressive. And why? Because you play to win, right? Look, back-to-back 10-win seasons, back-to-back seasons where they get playoff wins. And look, C.J. Stroud is in his rookie contract. This window's not going to last forever. The Texans need to take advantage now. If they find a guy in the first round that's a high-impact player, go after him. I think in the whole draft in general, they need to be aggressive because you need to go ahead and take advantage and start winning now.
Now, I don't know what that definition entails. I don't know if it means moving up 5 spots, 10 spots, 3 spots, but I'm going to say more aggressive as well because you are looking at a team that has some clear needs, and if you love a player and you have that conviction, you go grab him, much like you did with Will Anderson a couple of years ago. Certainly a little bit of a different situation that the Texans are in now, or a lot different, but still, I love when teams have conviction, so I'm going to say more aggressive as well. And now, guys, let's look at the names on the board here. These are the names that are most often mentioned within mock drafts as the Texans' choice at number 25. So when you look at these names, which one are you most in favor of?
I am most in favor of Kelvin Banks, and I don't even know if it's a pipe dream at this point. And Cody's probably looking at me like, you're supposed to be the anti-O-line guy. Yes, I am. But you get cabin fever. You start to look at things a little bit closer. You start to hear like the teams that are visiting with him. And the offensive line, it bores me. I get it. It's been a problem. But I just don't see any scenario where Kelvin Banks falls to 25. It's being talked about a lot, but if he's there, I guess you got to take him. Quit looking at me that way.
This coming from a guy that just doesn't like to talk about the offensive line. Look, Banks is a phenomenal player, and if they could get him, then go ahead and do it. I don't believe he's going to be there.
Me
neither. If he's not going to be there, go with Tyler Booker. Guard, Alabama, inside. One of the best pass blockers in college football last year. Mean. Just mean.
And he's also Will Anderson. Like, he talks about Will Anderson and watching him be a team captain, and he's basically the offensive Will Anderson, and Will Anderson's the face of the swarm. So Caserio, D'Amico, I feel like D'Amico especially falls in love with him. You got the Alabama tie. You're trying to revamp your offensive line. So Booker is a thing. If Banks is there, though, it seems crazy, but you said talked about all over the place. It's weird to me, but it is a thing.
I wouldn't mind Nolan. I think that when you look at a guy like him, may have pound for pound some of the most talent in this entire draft. The production wasn't always there, but I would be fine with Nolan. How about you, Luis?
I'm with Cody. I think Tyler Booker is the guy that can definitely improve that inside offensive line and really the guy that can protect your quarterback. Look, he's fast. He really just fits into D'Amico Ryan's identity, right? This swarm identity comes from a program that's pro-ready. He's played in big moments. I think that's a good guy to go for.
And you mentioned Nolan. Nolan's interesting because that's top 5 talent.
Yeah.
Like, if you told me of all these guys, like, this guy can end up being one of the 5 best players in the draft, he is that guy. Like, as far as just putting on the tape and putting on the film, D'Amico's going to fall in love with him. But There's questions about, wanting to practice and all that. So can you turn into Swarm? I'm going to ask D'Amico about this when we talk to him. Is Swarm set in stone at 21? Because God knows I wasn't what I am now at 21. And you can get guys wise beyond their years like Will Anderson, C.J. Stroud, but if a guy's got the most talent and he falls to you at 25, can you turn him into Swarm?
If you have Swarm around you, I think it's possible.
I'm with you.
You got those guys pushing you to be Swarm?
Well, think about that defensive line room. Sheldon Rankins, Will Anderson can't go 2-3 interviews without talking about how important Sheldon Rankins was to him. He's back on the team now as a guy that could be a defensive tackle, teach Walter Nolan what Swarm means. It'd be a really, really nasty defensive line room.
It's interesting you guys mentioned D'Amico Ryans and what D'Amico likes. Now, on SNL Texans Talk, the two of you highlighted some guys who D'Amico Ryans may have a crush on.
Yeah.
It was Booker, Abuka, and Nolan. So, yes, we're talking D'Amico, but of those players, which one would GM Nick Caserio most likely fall for?
I gotta imagine a wide receiver that can play inside, can play outside, does all the dirty work. I mean, that just screams Nick Caserio, okay? Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, he's not going to be great at probably anything, but he's really good at a lot of stuff for the Buckeyes. He's their all-time receptions leader. Think about all the great wide receivers. Now, he played a little bit longer than some of those guys. He was in college a little bit longer than some of those guys. But even this past season, with the incredible freshman Smith on the team, Egbuka's still the receptions leader. They trusted him. And all those big runs you saw those two talented Ohio State running backs make, Egbuka's usually making a key block on those. Dirty work, multi-talented. I'm not going to use that versatile word. Multi-talented. Nick Caserio, love that guy.
And I would say that the offensive guys are where Caserio is going to lean. I think the impact of Caserio, I think it's kind of increased. I think he took a step back when Slowick came in because, in New England he was on the headset. He was a position coach. That was his side of the ball. You bring in Nick Caley, who has some New England ties. They're not going back to the Patriot way, but I do think the impact and Caserio, and really the overall need, the offense, defense is going to be good no matter what. If you add a Nolan, that's great. But I kind of feel like Caserio is probably going to be looking on the offensive side of the ball because they got to fix that. They have to.
They do. And obviously we talk about wide receiver and line. Is there a position the Texans need to address which people aren't talking about? What do you think, Luis?
Yeah, I think safety. I think even though, look, they just locked in Jalen Petrie, right? But look, Jimmy Ward's only getting older, and there's not a lot of depth there at safety. You need guys, hybrid DBs that can play, the nickel, that can help defending tight ends, that can support with the run and stuff. So I think at safety, they could definitely get some help there.
And Petrie got hurt last year, too, playing that new position. So having somebody, to back him up, back up C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's got a little injury history to him, not a bad idea.
I would say running back, and I would even look early at running back. I think they need to improve the quality of the running backs. I've been obsessing over drafting running backs for 5 years now, but I think if you look at Caserio and Caley, they were in New England in 2018. I'm bringing this game up again, sir.
Yep.
January 20th, 2019, the Patriots beat the Chiefs. They go on to the Super Bowl. In that game, 200 total yards, 4 touchdowns between Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead, and James White. So you need multiple backs. When Nick Caserio goes up there and says, well, we have a good running back room, Joe Mixon's good, Dameon Pierce is a good kick returner, and Dare Ogunbowale is a good on the kick game. That tells you they need running backs. You know it, Nick. Go get one.
How about corner? I mean, aside from...
That's a great point. That's a great point.
You got your top guys, but... if one of those guys go down,
the top two you feel good about, but then on the back end, it's like, where are we at?
Yeah, I mean, Kamari Lassiter, he didn't stay healthy the whole season last year. Derek Stingley's obviously got an injury history,
Knock
though.
on wood.
He's played.
He just stayed the whole season. I'm kicking the wood for him.
No, Stingley's played, I think, like 30 games in a row at this point.
Believe this guy?
So it'd be nice. Look, Nick Caley said it at his introductory press conference. It was the position that he coached. He said, I love tight ends. I love tight ends, too. I love this tight end class, and I would love for the Texans to draft a tight end. Do you want to watch Dalton Schultz block again?
Oh, wow.
I don't. So maybe get somebody that can block, and then Dalton would have to do that.
And these guys don't hold them back, right? They go straight for them, man.
That's why we have them on. Come on. So the Texans do have 7 picks. Nick Caserio did mention this past week of having a smaller board, that the Texans have a smaller draft board. So after hearing him say that, Will they make, say, 6 or fewer selections?
I think they make more. I think they're going to be aggressive. He also mentioned they don't have a 4th, which I thought was interesting because that's kind of awkward because it's the start. I always think that teams get it's almost like the night before Christmas because like on day 2, you go to sleep and you know these guys are remaining and you get started right off the top if you have a 2nd. If you don't have a 4th, typically you want to get involved early on because you fall in love with someone. So I actually could see some trade backs, maybe even trade back out of the 1st. Like New England and Philadelphia are willing to or not New England, Kansas City and Philadelphia, they're talking about trading. Do you trade with the Chiefs like the Bills did last year? I don't know. But
depends on what they're given.
Yeah, and everybody talks about that too. And they say, well, the Bills traded with the Chiefs and the Chiefs got Xavier Worthy because of it. Well, if the Bills would have drafted Ladd McConkey instead of Keon Coleman, I don't think they would care too much.
Exactly.
So, like, if you get your guy, then I think you're in good shape there.
Well,
that happens.
Landry mentioned the trade back. I mean, you're sitting there, you're thinking, you're 25, a quarterback is still available. One of those teams at the top part of the 1st or the 2nd round, they move up, and all of a sudden you got a bunch more picks than you thought you're going to have. Plus, if you want to get back into the 3rd round, or you want to move around, or you want to get into that 4th round, they got lots of extra draft capital next year from that Laramie Tunsil trade.
Yeah, and to me, it's very confusing when you say, hey, we have a small board, but looking at the roster and the issues, it looks like they have a lot of holes, so it doesn't really go hand in hand, right? So I think what you guys are saying is right on the money, right? They might end up trading back, get some more picks. The more the merrier in some cases, right? I know all the picks don't end up working out, but sometimes when you have more is better.
How did you guys take the small board comment? Because I thought, okay, not everybody in this draft we think can make our team. We have a certain number of guys that we think can fill spots. And if someone, say, in the 6th or 7th round comes knocking at our door, we're willing to trade out and get a higher pick in next year's draft.
I took it as they've eliminated a lot of guys that they think they have no chance in getting.
Okay.
Whereas like 2 years ago, you got your 2 favorite guys in CJ and Will. Last year, you didn't have a 1st round pick. So I looked at it as, because he also talked about Travis Hunter. We're not going to watch him. I looked at it as, okay, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, maybe McMillan, like all these guys, I've crossed them out. So that's how I kind of looked at it.
That makes a lot of sense.
They're not even entertaining the possibility of getting a lot of these guys.
Well, last year's a great example of the small board theory. Nick Caserio said after round 3, they thought about taking Kalen Bullock, their 3rd round pick, when they took Blake Fisher, their second round pick. So they can have a smaller board, but they have those guys grouped, and just because other teams don't have those guys when they have more, the Texans can still go back to their little groups. Guys are hanging out still in those little sections that Nick Caserio always talks about. So they might have a smaller board. They may think less draftable guys, but they still might have guys on the board as the draft moves on.
And don't go anywhere. More about the 1st round and beyond ahead on Sports Extra. And this draft, one of the better ones when it comes to local talent, led by quarterback Cam Ward. Each of these 5 could be picked in the 1st round. 3 of them, Ward, Golden, and Milroe, will be at the draft watching from the green room. And Cam Ward, his journey to being the possible #1 overall pick, it is remarkable, as Zack Tawatari details during a recent trip to West Columbia. Population, 3,600.
Every journey has its roots, and it was right here in West Columbia where Cam Ward laid the foundation to become a top pick in the NFL draft. Along Highway 36, the city of West Columbia.
Hardworking, blue-collar people, and they love athletics.
And at Columbia High School, Cam Ward's path to the NFL draft was laid.
I've watched him play from his freshman year till he graduated. He's a competitor. He puts in the extra work.
Ernest Pena, Columbia's athletic director, was the defensive coordinator when Ward also starred as a 4-year basketball letterman, but knew football would be his path.
When he puts his mind to something, you know he's going to excel in it. And he decided early in high school that football was going to be what he wanted to do.
Despite the fact that Columbia ran a run-heavy wing T offense at the time, where Ward didn't throw many more than 10 times a game, it only took one particular throw for Pena to recognize that Ward was elite.
We're on the short side of the field and we're running flood to the wide side of the field. A true flood with 3 receivers. And he throws a 15-yard out on a dime as a junior going into his senior year and making it look easy was impressive.
Ward led the Roughnecks to a district title in 2019, but his college offers were limited. Eric Morris, who's now the head coach for North Texas, was then the head coach at Incarnate Word. Pena says Morris was able to see then what others are seeing now.
Right away, he compared him to Patrick Mahomes, and I know there's coaches now that compare him to Mahomes. But Morris saw it early.
Ward's incredible rise took shape over the next several years at Incarnate Word, Washington State, and Miami.
You just need one guy. You need one person to give you opportunity, to have faith in you, to believe in you, and what Cam did with that opportunity is amazing.
Ward has wowed with his talent, something he proved to NFL scouts and teams on his pro day in March.
They finally got to see me throw in person. That should be all they need to see. But at the end of the day, whether they want to give it the pick or not, I'm going to be happy with every team I go to.
And something Pena believes will also serve Ward at the next level, his days back in the wing T.
It was a brand new system that we put in, so it was the first year in the system. And he was able to get everybody lined up. And that speaks volumes to his intelligence and his ability to learn something new.
But it's Ward's fortitude on his course from Columbia to his name being called at the draft that Pena knows will make him an NFL star.
You don't see a kid that's 0 star from a small town, West Columbia, where he's at right now, potential #1 pick. That's amazing. It's a great story.
In West Columbia, Zack Tawatari, KHOU 11 News.
More draft talk right now on Sports Extra with Landry Locker from the locker room, Cody Stoots of HOUfootball.com, and Luis Ortiz. All right, guys, we've got the whiteboards out here. The Texans will not draft a blank. So the Texans will not draft a blank. I know where I'm going.
It's never very good at homework, but let's see if I can write this out here.
Don't be copying me, Cody.
Okay.
All right. I got mine. All right. Go ahead, Cody. You finish first.
Okay, so the Texans will not draft a defensive end, okay? Doesn't mean they're not going to draft defensive players, but I think they're going to look for defensive tackles.
Okay.
So no defensive end. You've got a lot of defensive end options. Barnett and Autry, and then, of course, Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson. So you got enough for this year. No defensive end this year, maybe next year.
All right, Landry, what do you think?
They will not draft a defensive player not named Nolan in round 1. So I went a little bit. The defense, I know D'Amico. I know D'Amico. I've called him D'Amico with no offense, but I think D'Amico will be able to help himself and not add to the defense. We need some offense. But if Walter Nolan's there, it might get a lot more swarmy on the defense.
I went with this, a small school player, because I was binging the two of you and all of your hints, your cues. What did you have on your YouTube page?
The clues that Nick Caserio dropped.
Yes, and
He's never done it. He's never done it.
Yeah, he's the smallest school player has been, if you consider Houston a small school, was Tank Dell. Yep. So I think that was really astute from both of you. I'm going to say a small school player.
I'm going to say a running back. I know that Landry was talking about running back, but listen, they got Joe Mixon. There's actually 6 running backs on the roster right now. You got a fullback. You got, Damian Pierce right there as well. I don't think that you need to go for a running back.
Landry, what do you think of those running backs?
That's heartbreak, man. I want to draft one early. I want as many running backs as possible, but hey.
And Dari also doubles as a kicker, too, so there's added value there. He's a plus in the kicking game.
He does everything. He does everything, and Damian Pierce, but you never know, man. Sometimes the crazy thing about this draft, they're not in control. Like they're in control, but they're not in control because you're drafting 24. You're drafting 25th. You got to wait for 24 teams. Then you got to wait till 58. Like they don't really control. They're used to controlling things. They don't really control it this year.
Man, no running back. I'd like 2 running backs, to be honest with you. Okay, get a guy that's right there with Joe Mixon, helping him out, taking the load off of him. Like the Texans, they're going to say it 1,000 times before the season gets here. They want to run the football.
Listen, look, more running backs the better. I agree. I'm with you. But with all the holes that they have, I don't know if that's like one of your top priorities.
All right.
You want a wide receiver?
Yeah.
Offensive line,
plural, multiple.
All right, so now let's do our dream scenario. The player who winds up being Houston's first-round pick. What would be your dream scenario, Cody?
It's Kelvin Banks from Texas. I mean, he can play guard for you this year and do it probably at a really high level, as good as some of the guys that are just guards. And then next year, you bump him outside, and he's your future left tackle, and you figure out the answer to 2 questions that the Texans have, which is, how are we making the O-line better this year? And who's the tackle of the future? Kelvin Banks can do it both.
I agree with him on Kelvin Banks. I just don't see how he's going to be there. It's crazy to me that is a thing. I think you make a case that if you draft Banks, he might be your best tackle and guard immediately. Like, that's what's crazy about it. Is he going to play tackle or guard? I don't know. He might be your best guard. He might be your best tackle immediately. But Walter Nolan is another one that's a dream scenario. And I know I give D'Amico a hard time about the defense is so great and the offense is bad in all the areas, but I think you're looking at a top 5 defense. If you get Walter Nolan and you have like an elite talent on the interior with Daniil Hunter on one side and Will Anderson, like it's crazy. And I don't know that either one of these scenarios happen, but we're dreaming. So the dream, Nolan or Banks, those would be the 2 dreams.
And my dream is that the Texans are able to maybe trade down a couple of picks and still get one of those upper tier offensive linemen. Okay. Doesn't matter who, but to pick up, say, maybe a high pick in next year's draft and then get one of those guys, I'd be happy with that. Luis?
I mean, you guys are dreaming. You want to trade back and still get one of those top guys, and then you guys are talking about Banks.
Well, this isn't the reality segment.
Dream no little dreams, man. Dream big.
Man. Look, I'm going to say Egbuka. I think at 25, you get a guy that you talked about, a guy that can play inside and outside. True. He's polished as far as route running. He's got the chemistry already from Ohio State with C.J. Stroud. Yep. You partner him with, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk. I think that's a good option.
And he knows C.J. very well. And he is their kind of guy.
He
very
is.
much their kind of guy. He is very swarmy. That's online. He is swarmy.
He checks every non-football box that they would want him to check.
Big time.
Everyone.
All right, well, these guys check all the boxes for us. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots. You can watch them together on SNL Texans Talk on YouTube as well. Thanks for being with us tonight on Sports Extra.
Happy Easter, happy draft season.
Anytime.